Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to my cabin in the woods. So, I want to talk about narcissism. Now, I don't want to turn this channel into a narcissist channel, a anti-narcissism or narcissism awareness channel. It's not what I'm about, but it's something that has recently come to the forefront with me. Now, the word narcissism gets thrown around a lot. You're a narcissist, you're a narcissist. It's almost equal to selfish. You're selfish or you're self-centered. But actually, narcissism is a framework of thinking, and most doctors agree it's incurable. It's not a mental illness. It's not something you can treat with medicine. It's not physical. It's not even psychological. It's a framework. Narcissists don't become narcissistic. They are created by their environments. They don't choose to be narcissists, therefore they cannot choose to stop being a narcissist. Narcissism is usually foisted upon them by narcissistic parents. So what is a narcissist? First of all, you need to know there are two kinds of narcissists. You're aware of the most common example of a narcissist. Best I can say, having been a lifelong musician and sideman, that the quintessential narcissist is the front man of the rock band. Most frontmen I've known were flaming narcissists. That's called a grandiose narcissist. It's a person who thinks he's better than you and exhibits that in his behavior and is unashamed of it. There's a lot to grandiose narcissism, but I won't get into that because that is not the individual that I keep running into. The individual I keep running into is known as the vulnerable or covert narcissist. So it's the person who thinks they are better than you, thinks the rules don't apply to them, and they can't handle criticism because they want you to think they're perfect. They want you to think they're everything you ever wanted. They want you to think that they can do no wrong. It's their number one goal in life for a covert narcissist is to appear either the hero or the victim. Now, doctors will say narcissism is something you can't ever grow out of or get around or quit doing. I kind of disagree because I developed narcissistic tendencies at a very early age as a survival tool against double narcissistic parents who both abused me in their own way and worked together to abuse me as well. And if you've watched the channel, you're aware of some of my pain and some of the stuff associated with that and some of the things I've struggled with. But a combination of spiritual healing through my faith and my walk with God and deep psychological introspection and personal work, I feel like I ditched most of the things that people would associate with narcissism and the negative aspects of it decades ago in my 20s, in the early part of my marriage and my first marriage, and the time I was raising my children. And for me, part of my narcissistic issues went away when I had children, because I was able to see what it looks like when a person throws a mad fit. You look at your own kid, and especially in my case, my kids both looked like me. And so it was like looking at a mirror. And the kids, genetics have a lot to do with how you manifest yourself. And I just saw myself in those little 2-year-olds throwing fits. And I made a self-determination to never be like that again, and to never allow myself to act that way again. So having children is a way to mature potentially out of narcissism before it really solidifies. And one of the things about narcissism is it gets worse with age. The older you get, the more you allow yourself to continue in that behavior, way of thinking, and mindset, the more deeply ingrained it becomes. I think I was able to ditch it because I started so young. And I think my narcissism was a reaction to the narcissists around me, and I never liked when I acted in any way narcissistic. Now, the grandiose narcissist is associated with musicians, singers, politicians, doctors, lawyers, movie stars, those types. And a lot of the times you have something to hang your hat on. I mean, I play 12 instruments. It'd be easy for me to go, hey, I'm better than you. And I'm not. I understand that that was a gift given from God. I can't really take credit for it. I've been a decent steward of it, could have done more with it. But I can't really go, I'm better than you because I got this thing. In fact, I feel like God gave me that gift of music to save me from my childhood abuse. That it was the tool that I used to get out of my situation and overcome my circumstance and make something out of my life. But the musician is seen as or singer, is seen as the quintessential narcissist, I think. And so I get accused of being that because I am one of those. But what I am is manic. That I will not deny. That is documented. I'm manic. Mania is, you go through periods that are cyclical where you feel very, very confident and you need very little sleep and you need very little to eat and you tend to get a lot of stuff done. I've also been accused on being on uppers, which I've never taken because if anything, I have a problem with being too up, right? I don't have a depressed nature typically. As you can see, I ain't crying my eyes out, and I just went through a divorce. Excuse me. Feels like a divorce. Went through a breakup of a significant relationship that I'd invested a lot in. And it'd be easy for me to just, be down all the time, but I'm not. I'm double downing on work. I'm manic, but I'm not a grandiose narcissist. I never have been. I'm way too humble for that. I'm way too concerned about other people's feelings for that. And so narcissist I've encountered in the past of the covert type, and I'm going to talk more about covert narcissism in a minute. The covert narcissist always accuses me of being the narcissist, and I suspect it's happening now. Well, I know it's happening now. I got a couple exes that just cannot let go, and they want to put that on me, but it's narcissists tend to accuse you of the thing that they're guilty of, right? We see this today politically, that there's this narcissism is such a epidemic, a rash in the world right now. It's worse than it's ever been. The number of people that show narcissistic ways of thinking, acting, and behaving, those numbers are off the chart. Just ask anybody. It's permeated our culture to the point where it's almost the American signature, right? That modern Americans, especially those of a certain political persuasion, tend to be very me-oriented and narcissistic, while at the same time claiming they're not. That's one of the things about a narcissist. They will claim to be an empath when in fact they cannot feel empathy. Let me repeat that. If you have known a narcissist and you thought they were feeling empathetic for anyone, it was a show. It was a smokescreen. It was the fact that they couldn't feel anything. One of the most grandiose narcissists I ever knew was a pastor. One of the things he confessed to me when we got to know each other, and I was also a minister, and people know that about me. I'm a former minister. Some might say I'm still a minister and this is my church, and maybe it is. I don't know. You tell me in the comments section if you got any spiritual growth out of this channel. By your fruit you shall know them. But this man, this pastor, he wasn't an evangelist, although that's probably the only job he should have had, because he was great at preaching, singing, making music, all that stuff. He was the Jimmy Swagger type. But he confessed to me that he doesn't love people. He can't feel love for any of the people in his church. He doesn't really give a rip whether they live or die. And he knows it's wrong, but he doesn't know what to do about it. See, narcissists can only love themselves. And ultimately, that's not even true. Jesus taught us to love your neighbor as yourself. The problem with a narcissist, as much as their whole personality is designed on promoting and selling who they are, of creating a false narrative about who they are, their accomplishments, what they've done, who they've known, all these things, and they, want to appear to be perfect. Narcissists actually, when you get to the core of it, hate themselves. They do not love themselves. They are not proud of themselves. You can delude everyone else, but ultimately you really can't fool yourself. You almost have to go multiple personality disorder to deceive yourself at the core level. Now, a lot of people live in delusion, but you know what? That's front brain thinking. In your heart of hearts, Narcissists know they're wrong. They know they're not like other people. And they work desperately to hide that fact. If they're the covert type, the grandiose narcissist is kind of unapologetic about it, right? Now, what is a covert narcissist? A covert narcissist is everything a grandiose narcissist is, but they don't want you to know. They want to be the most generous, the most empathetic, the most giving, the most, or they have to be the victim. Oh, they hurt me. They did this to me. See, I'm not responsible for any of this. It's their fault. A narcissist cannot accept personal responsibility. Let's just say this again. A narcissist cannot accept personal responsibility. Now, this is a Christian channel, so some people want to say that narcissism is a demon. I have done deliverance and cast out many demons off of people that are absolutely a narcissist. But when you're done and they're clean, right? What happens is their framework in the way they think, the structured stinking thinking, the methodology that they have lived in. The older they are, the harder it is for them to let go of this. It's such a structured way of thinking, they can't help but to agree with the demonic voices when they eventually, inevitably return to try to get back in the house you just threw them out of. And the Bible teaches us that every time that you go through a person's soul and evict these creatures from their spirit, that they're going to come back and try to get in, right? And if you let them, by agreeing with them, by acknowledging them, by listening to them, by listening to their deceptions, by opening your mind up to them, that they'll come back in and they'll bring 7 more vile spirits than themselves with them. So what you end up with is by the time a narcissist gets 50 or 60 years old, it's almost like the harder they try to get better, the worse it gets, because they can't help but agree with the demons and they come back 7-fold. So having done deliverance on people that are narcissistic, I find that it is pointless. You will get them to be free for a period of time, and then eventually they will start to listen and agree with the demons, and more will come back, and they just get worse. This is one of the reasons I believe that narcissism is documented as getting worse the older you get. An old narcissist is one of the most vile creatures on earth, especially a covert one. And the reason being is that they're, especially if you're dealing with a person who lived out their narcissistic dreams throughout life by manipulating other people because they use beauty, right, or money or charisma to seduce people into their lives who then they punish. I mean, that's essentially a narcissist is a person who is full of rage. I won't get into what causes narcissism. I will say this: be very, very careful how you handle your children. Make sure that you're handling your children fairly and justly and wisely. Parenting is one of the most important endeavors you will ever, it's the most important endeavor you will ever accomplish in your life, and it is your legacy. So handle it very carefully. And I know most parents do the best they can. I'm just urging you to do better and learn about how narcissists are made so you don't make one. And a lot of times, narcissists make other narcissists. The fact that I'm not narcissistic and I am self-aware and I do have empathy and I do good things for other people without expecting anything in return. I do want to help folks make the world a better place, and I put my money where my mouth is, and I do the good work, right? The fact that that's me, considering my childhood, is a miracle, and I really just put it at the feet of God. Any good work that was done in me is a miracle. If I didn't have God, I would definitely have been dead or in prison by now, because that's where my cousins ended up. That's where people that I know who were raised like me ended up. People who were raised like me tend to grow up to be criminals. And I mean of the worst sort. Hitmen, hard thug, drug dealing killers, enforcers for the mafia. The kind of abuse I suffered typically creates a sadist. And I'm just blessed that I was kind of born a more mature spirit, right? I was able to cope with this. Not everyone can. I have a lot of empathy for narcissists. I feel sorry for them. But what is being in a relationship with or being around a narcissist like? So I'm going to give you quickly here at the end of the video. I'm just going to call them 5. There's probably 50, but let's give you the top 5 if I can think of 5 without having to edit here. 5 indicators of a narcissist. I think the number 1 red flag that you're dealing with a narcissist is they cannot take nor can they accept criticism. Now, a grandiose narcissist, an extroverted narcissist, right, of the rock star variety, will just let it all roll off their shoulder. Pfft, you're beneath me. No one believes that. I'm not like that. You don't. Pfft, I didn't make a mistake. That was your fault. I don't make mistakes. A covert narcissist, on the other hand, has a visceral reaction to being criticized. Typically, it's denial. I didn't mess up. You messed up. I'm not like that. I don't make those kind of mistakes. This is not me. You're making that up. You're putting that on me. And with each denial, the pitch raises until now they're like this. How dare you speak to me like that? The Karen is kind of an example of a covert narcissist. Losing it. If somebody you are involved with, in a relationship with, have to work with, if you give them a bit of constructive criticism, and especially if you deliver it in a really, coated in sugar way, and this person refuses to own it, blames someone else, doesn't take accountability for their actions, tells you it's your fault, you're wrong, or you do it just like me, right? You do it too. So-and-so does it too. See, what you won't hear from a narcissist until they've kind of broken down and they feel like they're losing you and they're trying to get you back into the relationship and trying to get back control of you. They won't ever say something like this. The 4 components of an apology is impossible for a narcissist to say. A covert narcissist who sold themselves as being empathetic, being humble, being helpful, being loving, caring, all this stuff. It's not them. This is the image they projected. Are incapable of delivering a proper apology. So, number 2 ways to recognize a narcissist. Number 1 was what? They can't take accountability and they can't take criticism. Number 2 is they cannot apologize. Not really. The backhanded apology, the apology that's not an apology, is the earmark of a narcissist of both varieties. This is something they both share. They cannot actually properly apologize. Because an apology consists of several elements. Number 1, accepting responsibility. I did that. Number 2, remorse. I'm sorry I did that. Number 3, regret and wishing you could redo it. Right? Wishing you could undo it. I wish I'd never done that. I was so wrong. All these things right here. And I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. And then finally, the last portion of a proper apology is, and I'm going to work on me so that I never do something like that again. I've learned from this, and I promise that I will do better. Now, that's an apology. A narcissist apology kind of looks like this. I'm sorry, but you shouldn't have spoken to me that way. I'm sorry, but you were wrong. You did this, this, and this. Or, I'm sorry you got your feelings hurt. That's a narcissistic apology. Or one that has to be coerced. You're demanding the apology. They're telling you, I have nothing to apologize. And then they go, okay, fine. I'm sorry. Feel better? That's a narcissistic apology. Even their best effort will miss. They cannot accept accountability and personal responsibility. They just can't say they were wrong without giving you the reasons why they did what they did. When someone does something to you, then apologizes, but then gives you all of the reasons why they did it, what they're actually saying is, yeah, I did that to you, but it was because of this, 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 and this. And what that says to the person that's the victim of this situation is, if I'm ever in a situation that's similar to that and any of these other things happen, I'm going to do the same thing to you all over again. So they can't apologize. Number 3, they are filled with rage. A narcissist is filled with rage. And I don't mean simmering anger. I mean full-blown rage. They hide it from the world. They suppress it. They white knuckle it, right? Until they just can't anymore, and then it comes pouring out. This typically will be, if you've ever been in a fight with someone you're in a relationship with, and you're arguing about something of a specific point, trying to get them to see your point of view, and they will just switch gears into a personal attack. Yeah, well, at least I'm not this. At least I'm not that. You know, nobody cares about you. Nobody likes you. Your own family don't even care about you. Blah, 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 blah. You're this and you're that. And it just, I call it a kitchen sink argument. So a narcissist is filled with rage. And when you first see it, it's a little frightening. Some of this can become physical. They can actually hit you, but usually it's just a tirade of the below the belt attacks that have nothing to do with the argument. What that is a tool they use so they don't have to accept accountability, so they don't have to apologize. They want to make this about everything else except the thing you first started talking about, right? And after these bouts of rage, they typically get a little bit of remorse, and mainly it's because they can see the damage they did to you, and now they know they have less control over you, and they've damaged the relationship, and so that makes them sad. Not that they hurt you, not that they can't give a rip about your feelings. It's that their mask slipped, and you saw the real them, and that disturbed them, and so they can appear very remorseful. It's best. The best example I can come up with is the husband. Classically, there's female abuse happens the same way, but the husband beats his wife again and sends her flowers and begs for her forgiveness and says how sorry he is and how it's never going to happen again, right? That's because if he doesn't, he's going to lose the relationship and lose power over her. He doesn't really care that he hurt her because he's going to do it again. Can narcissists help themselves? Can they not do it? I think they have some control over it. I just think most of the time they don't want to control it. Why bother? You're not worth it. Your feelings aren't worth it. So that's 3, right? Number 4, narcissist telltale is a loose association with the truth. Okay? A narcissist will tell you a lie, and when they're caught in the lie, they'll try to tell you why they lied, why it was okay for them to lie. And in some ways, it feels like they're asking permission to lie to you in the future. So lies are the 4th red flag that you're dealing with a narcissist. You'll flat catch them in a lie, and they'll deny it. They'll say, no, I didn't say that. No, you're wrong. No, this is the truth. That's not the truth. No, you're remembering it wrong. Anything they can, but if they absolutely get cornered, even sometimes with proof, but sometimes you'll get them cornered, then they'll say, yeah, I lied. I had every good reason to lie. I lied because you do. And to the person who's receiving that, you're hearing, I lied to you, and if the situation arises again, I'm going to lie to you again because I have a right to lie to you. You don't deserve the truth. You can't handle the truth. They'll lie about everything. They don't just lie about the big stuff. They lie about all the little stuff. They'll lie to make themselves look better. They'll lie to cover up something they're ashamed of from their past. And if you let a narcissist talk, they're not as smart as they think they are. And there's so many lies layered over time that you'll get them to cross over a line, and tell on themselves. They'll forget they already told you that story and that they left something out, and now they tell you the whole story, but from a different angle, leaving something else out from the other story. I'm going to give you an example. So I was in a relationship with a woman, and she would often talk about her exes in detail, just kind of almost went on and on about them. Now, I talk about my exes too, but mainly I talk about the damage I received from dealing with being in relationships with covert narcissists most of my life. Like, I realize now that most of my girlfriends have been covert narcissists, and I'm only the couple that I don't think were kind of slipped away from me. I couldn't hold on to them, and part of that is because I had so much damage from being a victim of covert narcissistic rage and distrusted of women because I've been lied to so much and cheated on that that I actually didn't treat a good woman right when I found her, you know. And that's only happened to me a couple times. And that is not what happened in this recent relationship. So let's just, for the record, that's not one of these. My last ex is not the one who got away. She's the one I'm glad is gone. Now, I got a couple that kind of got away, and it was because I wasn't treating them the way they deserved to be treated, right? And I recognize that. Also, something a narcissist would never do, recognize their fault in a past failure. So, narcissists lie. But I'll give you an example. So this woman would talk a lot about her exes, and I kind of wanted to keep them all straight because she had a lot of them. And I'm not judgmental at all. When you get over 50, right, we all got a lot of exes. I mean, there are a few people out there that have just been married for 30 years when they're 50 and they get divorced or widowed. But most of the time, there's a lot of stories there. And I was not one to go, tell me about all your exes. I have to know every detail. But if she's talking about them, I might ask a question so I keep people straight. So when she would start talking about a man from her past, I would say, is this a boyfriend or a friend? You know, what's the story there? Who is this person to you? Just so I can keep it straight. And I'm almost thinking about in the future, just stopping people and going, really, I just don't want to hear about other men from your life, right? I don't really want their details. I don't need to know their secrets. I don't need to know all the things about them. I mean, in one particular relationship, I know so many secrets about their exes. That's another thing. That this is a side one, not one of the top 5 indicators of a narcissist, but it's in there. Is that they'll tell all their secrets of all their exes. They'll tell you their deepest, darkest secrets, and they'll tell you willingly. Like they'll just divulge it, right? They like to talk about their exes. That's not one of the things, but that can be. A lot of people do. I mean, we learn from our past mistakes. It's part of our history. There's nothing wrong with talking about it. So I wasn't judging this woman when she talked about her exes a lot, and there were a lot of them. No big deal. But in one particular case, I asked her, who's this person to you? And she goes, oh, he's just a friend. He's just been a lifelong friend. We're just friends. And I said, so you never were intimate, never dated for a minute? And no, we were just always just friends. And I felt like my gut was going off, and I felt like I was being gaslit. We'll talk about gaslighting later on. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up. But I kind of felt like she was lying to my face, right? Just a gut feeling. So I asked a very specific question. So you never had sex with him? You were just friends and only friends? She goes, oh, yeah, absolutely. Later on, this said same person, in another conversation, once we got to know each other better and we started talking about past sexual adventures, she admitted to being in a 3-way with this guy. The guy that she never had sex with and that she never was anything but friends with. And as it turns out, they had a 10-year on-again, off-again sexual relationship that never developed into a real romantic relationship because she didn't have those kind of feelings for him. But they were partners of sexual variety in adventurous ways for a long time. So not only was that a lie, it was a big, fat, honking lie, right? So narcissists lie about their past, about where they were yesterday, about what they intend to do tomorrow. And they're very crafty and very good at it. And I would suggest if you'd like to catch a narcissist in a lie, just talk less and listen more, because they'll loop on themselves. So what's the 5th indicator you're dealing with a narcissist? They must have outside sources apart from you to feel good about themselves. Okay, so what does that mean? They stay in contact with their exes. Narcissists can't walk away from an ex, and if they do, it's only because, and this has happened to me a couple of times, I called them out on their narcissism. They knew I knew what they were, and I stopped falling for the love bombing. Love bombing is something we'll talk about in future episodes concerning this topic. But I stopped playing along, and I called them out, and then they will at that point disappear from your life, cut you out forever, and delete you from everything, and then trash your name behind your back as best they can as a smokescreen so that the truth about them never gets out. And so narcissists have to have other people. And so there's times like if you're in a relationship with a narcissist and something happens, you have a fight, and they lose that admiration for a period. They have to have other people on the hook so they can go to them and get their ego stroked. A narcissist must always hear only good things about themselves. They can't handle criticism. They can't handle anybody having a negative point of view about them. And if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, they will always have other people on the hook just in case. Just in case they need somebody to make out with or go have sex with or just get a compliment from or get a sympathetic ear, someone they can go talk to about you, trash you to them, get sympathy, right? And a narcissist will always have connections with their exes. And that's one thing I can say about myself. I am not in contact with any of my exes. I'd stopped that for a good year before I ever met my last ex. You're going to know her name, but I will never say it again. And it should be an alarm bell that you're dealing with a narcissist if they have all of these friends, like Hotel California. She's got a lot of pretty boys that she calls friends. A narcissist has to have a network of people who don't know who they really are, or if they do, they've accepted it and they still admire them for whatever reason because they're beautiful or good in bed or talented or whatever. And so they have to have this network. So if you're with somebody and they're always on their computer, they're always on their phone, especially, we know that this is one of the indicators of a cheater too. But just because a narcissist is talking to people doesn't mean they're cheating. And not all narcissists cheat, right? And not all cheaters are narcissistic, okay? So it's one of the things I didn't really add in there. I'm not saying number 5 is that narcissists cheat. I'm saying number 5 is narcissists have to keep this group of people, yes men, people that they can have on the side burner, because they always have to have that feed. They're like an addict. An addict, my sister was an alcoholic, God rest her soul. She died from it. Not the one that's alive, but the one that's deceased, obviously. And the thing about her is that, she had her bar, and you could go in and take her bar away, but she had bottles stashed everywhere. You don't get an alcoholic stash till you ripped up the floorboards. They've got hidden stashes of alcohol everywhere. And there is this new kind of common way of thinking that's emerging with doctors and psychologists concerning narcissism. Some of them are calling it an addiction. They're addicted to the behavior. And because it manifests in a lot of the same way that addiction manifests. So look at yourself as the main bar for a narcissist. If you're in a relationship with a narcissist, if you've ever been in a relationship with a narcissist, you're the public bar. They're an alcoholic. They have to have the energy that you provide. They're kind of spiritual vampires, emotional vampires. They have to suck your energy dry, right? And you're their supply. You're their dealer. You're their bottle. You're their main booze, right? The bar in the game room. But they have to make sure that if something happens to that bar, or the bar gets taken away, or whatever, or they just want to be able to drink without anybody knowing, especially if you're watching the bar to see how much they drink, right? They want to have a stashed bottle. Well, a narcissist will have stashed friends, pretty boys that they call friends. A lot of times, most of the time, it's their exes, right? If they can get out of a relationship without burning it down, which is really hard, it only happens usually when the other person kind of slips away and doesn't want the narcissist to know they know what they are. And I wish I could do that better, but I'm a truther. This is a truth channel, and I just tell the truth. I mean, yeah, those pants make your butt look big. I will tell you that. I would say, no, it's not the pants' fault. Your butt's just big. I am the guy that says the emperor is not wearing clothes. And so, but sometimes people can slip away, minimize the impact, make it's not you, it's me kind of thing, and not confront the narcissist. And if that's the case, the narcissist will put those people in their pocket for future supply, right? And so, be guaranteed if you're in a relationship with somebody and they are spending an inordinate amount of time on their phone, on their computer, they come home late from work, they're always going to work functions, that what they have is a little string of ponies of complimenters and supporters and empathizers, and they will use those while they're ignoring you, giving you the cold shoulder, denying you the things that you need in the relationship while taking everything they need. demanding things from you. So that's the top 5. I won't go back through them. If you want to, you can rewind and look at them, but I believe I got to 5 there, and there's many more red flags. And being in a narcissistic relationship is very damaging to a person. If you've been in a relationship that whenever there was conflict, you went away confused as what actually just happened, right? I could go into another sixth indicator is a thing, and we'll talk about these in future episodes. I'm going to talk about this. I think it's an epidemic, and it's affected our culture, and it may be the main thing wrong with America is that the me generation turned out to be very wicked, self-centered, and they destroyed our country. This way of living destroyed our country, this way of thinking. I want to talk about feminism and its role in the destruction of relationships and how it lends itself to narcissistic behavior and thought. I want to talk about the spirit of control and how that relates to narcissism and the demonic elements that come into this. This is going to be something I'm going to talk about until I've worked it through, because I'm done with relationships. Even though I know all this stuff about narcissism, I keep walking into the honey trap. I keep walking into it over and over again. And part of it is, I love beautiful women. The problem is, beautiful women are more likely to be narcissistic than your average girl. And it kind of breeds it, right? Just like talent can breed it in a musician, or money can breed it in a rich person who was born privileged. And so, but being in a relationship with a person like that is destructive to you. I'm a strong person. I've endured these relationships much longer than I should have because I knew I could handle it. But ultimately, it takes a toll on you. Have you ever been in a relationship where your health went right down the drain, and the minute you got loose from them, suddenly your health returned? Suddenly you're not aching all over. You don't hurt everywhere. You know, you're not sick every other week. You don't feel run down all the time. Getting loose from a narcissist is invigorating. It's like getting a boa constrictor off of you after it's been squeezing the life out of you. It's like dropping an 80-pound pack off your back that you've been carrying and you didn't even know you were carrying it. How much lighter and better do you feel now that you've got that off your back? So if you're in a narcissistic relationship, I encourage you to find your inner fortitude, draw boundaries, refuse to be treated badly, and then make a calculated and careful extraction of yourself. And you got to be careful, because breaking up with a narcissist is one of the most dangerous things.